No, that was it. That was.
All right. All right, call to order the regular meeting of the Board of Commissioners, August 19th.
Commissioner Ernst?
Here.
Commissioner Engel?
Here.
Commissioner Rollins?
Here.
Commissioner Vogelsang? Here. Commissioner Wright?
Here. Any changes to the agenda? Nope. Okay, we'll go ahead and do public requests.
Then you can.
Right now?
Yes. You're all right. Don't be nervous. Everything's okay.
Please state your name and address, please.
Michael Durando. I live at 5961 Northwest 2nd Avenue, apartment 104, Boca Raton, 33487. I purchased a condo there, let's see, December. Paid $285,000 for it. And I'm not happy with what's in my backyard. I noticed that I live at the corner of 2nd Avenue and Clintmore, and I noticed that they demolished that old building on the let's see, it's there's two corners that are beautifully grassed and everything, but on my corner there's old racquetball courts, and I have pictures, and there's old, like from maybe 50 years ago, a rope, and there's poles in the ground, they're white. And I just want to say that I'm trying to beautify, I think Boca is beautiful. I've worked in Boca for over 17 years. I work at Woodfield Country Club, and I love Boca, and this is where I want to live, and I just want to make it look good. And that corner, what needs to be done is you need to take out the concrete, what you did on the other sides. The job, to me, wasn't completed. And I'm not sure when it was done, years ago, when all the other work was done, but this side was not done and not completed right. And it really should be done. The concrete should be taken out and planted grass. And there's some old trees there that need to come out. And I just want to voice my opinion, because I live there now. It's in my backyard. And I think Boca is a beautiful place. It has beautiful beaches. I hope to see a beautiful golf course in my backyard one day. And I'm hoping for that, to see it in my backyard. And I just want to voice my opinion. I appreciate you letting me speak. And all my family I have family in Boca, I have family in Delray, and I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay. Any more public requests? Okay, so we'll go ahead and close public request. And prior to doing approval of the minutes of the previous board meeting, there was a one item that did not get the first, which item was it? Yes, go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just for the record, Madam Chair and Commissioners, at your last board meeting, the board approved the track resurfacing item at Don Estridge Park. And during the preparation of the minutes, Joanne had indicated it was unclear who had made the initial motion. There was a second by Commissioner Rollins, but we just wanted the minutes to reflect the maker of the motion. It was a unanimous vote. We would just like to know who would like to be listed as the maker of the motion for that item to ensure the minutes are complete and accurate. It was unclear from the recording whether a initial motion had been made, although there was a second. So we just, if somebody wanted to,
You couldn't hear whether it was male or female.
we could not. And again, I didn't personally listen. I think there was some question as to whether or not an initial motion was actually made. The item did pass 5-0. It's more a ministerial issue ensuring that the minutes are complete. We just want to reflect one member of the commission as the maker of the motion, if anybody has an interest.
Well, I usually try to do that, so why don't you just put my name in?
Commissioner Vogelsang, without objection? I need to vote on the minutes as amended. Thank you.
All right, so we'll do approval of the minutes of the previous board meeting held on August 5th.
Move to approve.
Second.
Commissioner Ernst,
Yes.
Commissioner Engel,
Yes.
Commissioner Rollins.
Yes.
Commissioner Vogelsang.
Yes.
Commissioner Wright.
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
Okay, moving on to regular business. First item is the Miller Lake Additional Services Agreement number 4.
Commissioners, on page 6 of your agenda packets is a memo as well as the Miller Lake Additional Services Agreement for North Park. This is Additional Services Agreement number 4, looking for approval tonight as presented. We do have representatives from Miller Lake here tonight to answer any questions.
Okay. We have,
Move to approve.
okay,
Second.
okay, any discussion?
Yeah, I think let's discuss it. I mean.
Yeah. Agree.
I mean, Mike, I guess the starting point is, it's an additional number 4. Why was it overlooked to begin with? Or was it not overlooked? And maybe just give us some background of why we're doing it. That's all.
Okay, I'll let her do it.
Mike Cole with Miller Lake.
Yep.
So, what this additional service is really, outcomes from going through the site planning process with the city. So the first section, which are tasks 1 through 4, really talks about the east buffer. That is the area on the eastern side of North Park. On the eastern side of North Park, that's covered with primarily exotic plant species. And the approach that we took with the city was that ultimately we would have a plan in place that they would just be removed. They wanted us to actually prepare construction documents, do a pilot plot to demonstrate how we were going to propose to do that, and then put construction documents together and have it actually as a part of this project. So just another thing that they requested us to do as we were going through the process. The second portion of the tasks, which are tasks 5 through 8, that is our pedestrian tunnel. So you remember Jeffrey Street is ultimately or planned to go through from 2nd Avenue and across the railroad tracks, okay? They don't have the plans completed for that yet. And as we were going through site planning, we suggested that that would be part of the roadway project as they build the road. And they said they didn't want to do that, and they would require the district to build the tunnel before the road got done. So that's what this is. That's what this is for. So again, we're building a tunnel that they're ultimately going to build a road on top of. So right now we really don't need a tunnel, but we're building it at the behest of the city.
Is there any risk on the tunnel? I mean, I don't know how they're going to get over the railroad tracks or under the railroad tracks.
Mm-hmm.
Has that been, do you have any feel or flavor of what's going to happen? So the tunnel isn't too high or too low?
Yeah, and we're, again, it's not final designed yet.
Yeah.
We have presented them typical cross sections with elevations, both horizontal, so going north and south of the tunnel itself, as well as a vertical alignment to get up and over the tunnel from 2nd. So you're going from 2nd, going up and over the tunnel, and then dropping back down so you get to grade at the railroad crossing. Those all work with safe distances and safe slopes for the roadway. So we've kind of demonstrated that to the city, and they were okay with that. The key thing is we didn't want the tunnel to be too deep because our water table is there. So in the design that we're providing here, this additional service, we have the tunnel, waterproofing, as well as sump pumps in it. So if the water does flow into that area, we can actually pump it out, okay? So that is something that was, again, as we're going through site planning, they required us to do that. So we didn't anticipate that would be required. We thought that would be part of the roadway project, but the city said we want that as part of the site plan approval.
So just for visualization,
Sure.
this tunnel is not going to be at below grade level. It's actually, so the road is going to go up and over the tunnel a little bit.
A little bit of both.
Yeah, a little bit of both.
Yeah, the tunnel is going to be dropped a little bit from the existing grade, but not deep. Okay, but the road is actually going to have a little rise in it.
Right. Is that is the vision that the sidewalk cutting across on top of that tunnel as well, or is it?
Yes,
Okay, so,
yes,
so
yes.
pedestrians and their
So-
bikes and everything will be on top of it, everything is in the
Correct.
same line.
Absolutely,
Oh,
absolutely.
okay.
Yeah, so there'll be
Okay.
in essence, you'll have kind of the tunnel running north-south, and going over the top will be a roadway and sidewalks on top of it.
Okay,
And then also, the other thing that we have to do as part of this is utilities have to go over that. So certain utilities that are pressurized, water and sanitary, will go over the tunnel. So that's what we have to do too.
okay, and this is just the design, it's not the cost of the tunnel. Any idea of how much this tunnel is gonna cost?
I don't, but we
A
can.
range?
We can report back on that. Again, we're gonna try to use the most cost-effective construction methodology for this, but it relies upon the geotechnical investigations that are part of this scope. So that's gonna kind of dictate the methodology we use. If we can, we're gonna try to use box culverts that are DOT specified box culverts, and kind of piece those together so it's as economical as possible for you guys. So.
Okay,
So,
okay.
again, it really relies upon geotechnical information that we get as part of this to tell us how we construct that tunnel. Because the worst thing we want to do is have that tunnel sacrificed as they're building a road over the top of it.
Right, I guess I would say it's most important for the district and the city to agree. I mean, before this gets
Oh,
firm
absolutely.
and final, because
Yes,
we're kind of accepting that we're building this tunnel, but I could make the argument that we got nothing to do with the road going in there, and therefore we want nothing to do with their tunnel project, and they could do it.
Right.
That's what they want to do, but
yes.
um,
We brought that up and we said, you
Yeah.
know, again, same discussion that you were having. When is the road coming through? We can't tell you. That was their
Yeah.
response, but we're planning on it and we're moving forward. You know, it is an initiative of the city, and they are doing everything they can to get that road
to
in.
move forward with it.
Yes.
Okay.
And so that is the second part. I'm sorry, that's, and the
I
third
got a
part,
question.
I'm sorry.
Going forward, have you discovered any subterranean cable? When we were looking into doing the tunnel under Second Avenue back in the day, there was some mention of some subterranean cable that extends all the way down to South America.
Wow. Not that we're aware of, but we'll, what kind of cable was it?
I don't remember.
And it was on Second Avenue?
Well, it
Yeah.
would have affected where we were putting the tunnel in on Second Avenue. So that's
Okay.
it. And that wasn't that far away from Jeffrey Street. So, or
Right.
Clintmore,
So the
whatever.
tunnel would have been east-west tunnel?
It would have been an east-west.
Okay, all right. Okay,
And if I recall, when we met with the city, their public works or engineers had mentioned there are a couple cables of utilities on Second, but they didn't, so far for Jeffrey, we'll have to explore.
Thanks, Lemmy.
thanks. Any other questions on the tunnel section?
Mike, just one question. Where is this diagram here? Where is that located on the park? That's one.
Oh, yes, that's our southeast corner.
That's where the hotel was?
Yes,
Yes,
the former.
yes, that's the southeast
Yeah,
corner.
that's what I thought. Okay.
Yes. And then the third part of the additional service is the Northwest 67th Street design. And I think we talked about that last time we were here.
Mhm.
That was one of the things that the city wanted, was for us to improve that roadway at 67th, which is the northern access into the park, on the east side of the park. So the plan here is to develop some concepts, present them to you, make sure that you would be okay with it. Review it with the city to make sure it's permittable, and then move forward with the construction documents for that.
Another question, Mike.
Yes, sir.
These green circles here, are these trees that are
Those are.
involved in this? I mean,
Yes.
Do they have to remain there, or?
Those are existing trees, and our goal is to remain in place. The reason that we're doing this survey is they also required us to put a sidewalk on the south side of Jeffrey Street from Second Avenue to the east to the entrance to the park. So that's why we have to have that survey and that area in there all.
Oh, I see.
And the shade trees. Oh yeah, they also required us to put shade trees along that sidewalk also. So
Okay.
that's why we have to inventory that and then do a survey of that area.
Okay.
So
We are a tree city, right?
we are, absolutely. So that's kind of an explanation of those three areas of that.
Thank you.
So I guess I gave Brianne a little bit of a hard time on this earlier.
Okay.
And my only, request is we're here to support building a beautiful park. And as someone who has just recently came back on Saturday, spending all day at the Zoo Miami, where it was hot 24 years ago when I visited, it was hot on Saturday too.
Right.
But what I love about that area and the things that reminds me of what we have at Sugar Sand Park and at Gumbo Limbo is we have parks with character.
Right.
And, I really would hope that, I know the city has their own ideas of what they like and what they call character. I just don't share that vision. And I would hope that if you need some pushback on the city to make our parks with some level of character, that we do the right thing. Right. And it's not all cement. And
right.
it really looks well thought out and well designed with an architect that has some creativity. That it's really an effort put into it. So I look forward to seeing the designs and
sure.
And seeing what you come back with.
Absolutely. Will do.
Yeah.
All right. Any other questions? All right. Thank you very much.
Okay, we need a roll call.
Sure. Excuse me, Commissioner Ernst.
A motion and a second.
Yes.
Commissioner Engel.
Yes.
Commissioner Rollins.
Yes.
Commissioner Vogelstein.
Yes.
And Commissioner Wright.
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
Okay, moving on to number 2, the budget discussion.
Commissioners, at our next board meeting, following that meeting, we will have our first public hearing on our budget for fiscal year 2024-2025. So in your agenda packets, there's a memo on page 22, kind of briefly explaining where we are with the budget. And I think I've talked to each of you individually. We have a draft budget on page 24. Detailing a lot of the projects, the O&M with the city, which we've talked about. The bulk of our budget comes at all of our projects that we have coming out next year. We have the Patchogue Pickleball, we have the playground at Patchogue, and of course, North Park. Once we get through site plan on September 5th, I think we'll be ready to start getting construction documents out there to bid. So hopefully see some movement and progress on that park in the next fiscal year. Obviously, we won't finish it in 1 year, but we want to get a big chunk started. So our budget, put it together. The city was very responsible fiscally with their requests as far as the O&M for our parks. Put together the budget at the current millage rate, leaves us with about $4 million when all is said and done. And so happy to answer any questions. We also have Merv Timberlake here tonight. If you have any additional questions or want to talk about changing any items before we put together a budget presentation for our first public hearing.
Okay. Bob?
I don't even know where to begin to thank the city and Brianne for the job that they did. I don't know, Sue, were you with us long enough where we used to have these battles?
We used to have
meeting?
different colors every 2 weeks of a different budget.
Yeah, so I mean, the simplicity that how this lays out is so much better than we've ever had before. And I'm just so appreciative that I didn't have to spend 2 or 3 weekends going through this. It's laid out very simply, very understandable. And thanks to Greg for helping with that process, and Brianne, the way you put together the budget on, I think it's page 24, very understandable. I don't have any questions. We used to dig into this thing and have battles with the city over vehicles and things like that. I'm driving a vehicle with 100,000 miles on it, and they get to 50,000, they feel like they need to replace it.
Well, it does take a few years to get that replacement, so I think they're preemptive with that.
Yes.
They're producing. I want to also say that Merv he did a lot of the battles this year with the O&M and the budget office with the city, so to get some of these things drilled down. So I want to thank Merv for all of his input in putting this together.
Well, for everybody that had some input in this and the participation, I was very satisfied with the way it was laid out. And it's quite understandable. And I think, if in the interest of transparency, and we post any of this on our website, I think people have no trouble. They may have some questions about some of this, but I think there's no doubt that a lot of thought was put into it.
Ditto.
you guys did, well, I already told you this, but you guys did a great job with this. And when my first term on the board, and I get a book like this, and I got a green tab and a red tab and a yellow tab and a blue tab, and then it gets switched around, and then I see I went to one of the areas where one of the truck parks, and I see rusted out vehicles, and I got into another battle with that. Why don't you put bed liners in, and why don't you just make sure that you wash the trucks every afternoon before you put them away, like we used to do. Used to be called first echelon maintenance in the Army, and certain things that you did. We do that, but it looks a lot easier now. It looks like the city understands what we're looking for, and we understand what the city is looking for. And like Bob said, this is a lot easier to work with than me thinking that first year, what did I get myself into? So kudos to you guys, to Merv, and to city staff who also worked on this.
Thank you.
Great.
Sure. Well, I totally agree with the simplicity is better. That part of it is easier. And there's no doubt that the projects are significant, particularly coming forward. And we don't know exactly what the tunnel will cost, but it sounds like we are cost effective. So I'm okay with that one. I'm kind of struck with, we struggled to raise our millage rate, over the prior years. And the one thing that stuck in my mind was the gentleman who came to our meeting in this room. I think it was one of our first tax meetings, and he asked us not to raise the millage rate. And, he pointed out how he is working for his church and for others, and he sees how difficult it is for people to take on the higher millage rate. And the issue for us is, do you want the rollback rate? What do you want to do? How are you going to cover all these things? And I think we are very fortunate in a sense that, interest earnings were very significant. It's projected to be 2.6 million, I believe it is there, more than the 1.5 million. And I wouldn't mind just if we could, if the rate that we're going in as the same 108, could we go to 107 and still get everything we need to get done, and I'm gonna, hope that interest earnings stay a little higher and we can make it up. And I think we'll be okay. And so, and just to give it a little consideration, it's a little lower. It's reducing a little bit, but not, because remember, property values went up. So we're going to collect more money if we keep it at the same millage rate.
Right.
And maybe that's something, we don't have to do it tonight, but something to consider, as we get to the final. Any thoughts?
I think
Did I read correctly that the city was keeping their millage rate the same?
They're keeping theirs the same. There was one, I don't know if it was their general or one of their assessments that went down like 0.0 something.
It looked like their debt service
went down.
Obligation bond, debt service went down a little bit, so they moved it out a little bit. Pretty much it's the same.
Very small.
Very small. If anything, it's just a little bit.
There are 3 decimal places, and they went that third decimal place. They moved it.
Really was like one of the last. It was the hundreds of thousands points down. If we go to 1.07, that'll probably leave us with around 3.6 at the end of the day. So we still have a little bit of money left. So certainly we could put together a budget presentation for both, and then you guys can decide at the first public hearing what you're more comfortable with.
And what does that save the taxpayers in terms of like?
I'd have to look at that and see. But we could have that at the next at the public hearing. Sure. Okay.
Craig, if we were to do that, since we don't know what this tunnel is going to be, I know the tunnel that we looked into many years ago was 2.5 million. And I'm sure it's gone with construction costs and materials, it's gone up. So I'm just a little worried that since the city is mandating all these things for North Park, if we reduce too much, will we have enough for the emergency projects that might come along, a roof, an air conditioner, what have you? Just bringing it up there, so.
On the tunnel, the closest I could find to the size, to a recent project with a tunnel was actually in Michigan, which you were just there, right?
Yeah.
Very different, obviously, geologically and things like that, but it was 3.3, the same size tunnel and same similar scope to ours. But again, we don't know what they faced as far as where it was or how it went in or what their codes were, anything like that, but it was 3.3 million to do that project.
I don't know,
It was to connect a trail.
I wouldn't want to spend all our reserves on a tunnel.
Well, the tunnel won't be built next year for sure. I
Right.
mean, we will have time to budget for that in a future year.
Right. Go ahead, Murph. You had something?
Well, just from what Craig said, from 108 to 107, somewhere probably $500,000, 400 to $500,000.
Yeah.
Less money.
I think it's about, yeah.
Yes.
Something we need to keep in mind is if the Fed reduces their interest rate, the effect that's going to have on our investments. So I personally, I think the projection for fiscal year 25 might be a little bit high based on what I'm hearing that the Fed is going to cut their rate. So we may be off by a couple of 100,000, give or take. I'm not an expert at that, but I think before we decide to cut the millage rate, we see where we are with that. And we could have a better idea. If they decide to cut it and that changes our projection by 300,000 or 400,000 in terms of interest, now we're looking at 900,000 if we cut the millage rate and not 500.
Okay. Well, we can have a couple of scenarios at our next meeting, and then we can present one during the budget hearing.
Yeah, I don't consider debt reduction to be significant to a homeowner, but so I'd like to know what that is. But considering that, like Craig said, the massive projects that we have and the relatively unknown of some expenses that might be good to stand pat the way it is, but certainly open to taking a look at that.
I appreciate the balance of both. Yes. Okay.
All right. So that's the end of regular business. Do approval of payroll and invoices.
Madam Chair, I'd like to make a motion for approval of payroll and invoices in the amount of $2,455,159.68.
Second.
That would be Mr. Rollins on the second. And do roll call, please.
Roll call. Commissioner Ernst?
Yes.
Commissioner Engel?
Yes.
Commissioner Rollins?
Yes.
Commissioner Vogelsang?
Yes.
Commissioner Wright?
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
Okay, moving on to reports and discussion items, Director.
Commissioners, in your folders are an invite to the Peace Pole dedication at Sugar Sand, scheduled for September 14th at 10:30 a.m. That is we approved that a couple months ago to have the peace poles installed at Ocean Strand and Sugar Sand Park. So the posts the footers are in, and then they'll put the post, the actual pole, the peace pole, the white peace pole on top of that on the day of the dedication. The pickleball clearing for the Patrick Pickleball Center has started, so you'll see some progress starting out there, which is great news. There's a pre-construction meeting here tomorrow at 8 a.m. for the playground at Patrick, so that project is up and moving. And then a lot of you have seen and commented on the DeHornley Maintenance Building progress. They're doing interior finishing, and then landscaping are the next steps in that project as it gets closer to completion. And then I sent all of you an email last night with there's a new statute, and Jacob will talk about that a little bit briefly, requiring us to put together some goals and objectives. So I wrote those out, sent them out for everybody for feedback, and I've heard from some of you today. If you think of things along the way, that will be something that we will talk about and adopt at our next meeting, September 3rd. And that's all I have.
Legal.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. And just to follow up on Brianne's comments, so we know that beginning on October 1st of this year, all special districts are required annually to adopt what the statute refers to as goals and objectives. In Brianne's email yesterday, she laid out a preliminary sample or form of draft goals and objectives for the district for the upcoming fiscal year. Annually, that needs to be revisited by the district. And what the statute requires is that the district needs to publish an annual report each year, essentially benchmarking and determining how and whether it's met its goals and objectives that were established at the beginning of the year. So I'll give Brianne a lot of credit being out in front of that issue. We actually represent a number of districts, as you all know, and we've gotten quite a few questions from a number of executive directors as to how best to implement the new statute. And, to Brianne's credit, she really got out ahead and prepared that for you all for your review yesterday. It'll be on your next agenda for further review and consideration. That's all I have this evening, Madam Chair. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Commissioners? Sure.
You guys ready? I thought Brianne did an excellent job on the strategic planning and very complete. She should write a handbook for every special district in the state. Let's see. Chuck, thank you for doing the article on Claire McDonough. I can't wait for that to come out. I did have a question from someone about the condition of the playground at Patch Reef, and Brianne has stated that there will be some signage. She's just waiting to get approval from the city to put some signs up that a playground is coming and improvements will be made. So could we do something like that at North Park to let the public know that we are going to do something special, maybe with a QR code or something on it so that they can see the fun things that we're about to do? Okay. In public requests today, obviously the gentleman wasn't aware of what's going on over at North Park. If staff could just communicate with him that we are, we haven't left it lying fallow for no reason, that we are waiting to make improvements, but we don't want to spend taxpayer dollars ahead of time, that doing something that we didn't plan on. I had the wonderful privilege of continuing the conversation about the Arts Center over at Meisner with Andrea Virgin today. I encourage all of you to meet with her and see her vision and the vision of the entire group that is looking to do this project. It's quite remarkable. I had some concerns. She answered all my concerns, and I'm looking forward to doing whatever the district can do to help her vision with making the entire area pedestrian safe and family friendly, and all the wonderful cultural things that can enhance our community. So thank you.
Okay, thank you, Bob.
Well, I appreciate the gentleman mentioning the issues there. Those tennis courts there in the parking lot there probably don't contribute anything to our future plans. It may be worth exploring the cost to, just to dig that up and put grass down, because it's going to be years before anything happens over on the west side. I'm also, I haven't had a chance to talk to the folks about the new concept there at Meisner, and I trust that they'll seek funding from the appropriate sources. We have a big chunk of things that we got planned, and probably there's not much in the way that I would say diverting any of the funds that we have planned for many of our projects for something culturally like they have downtown, which I applaud their efforts. But I hope that that the city is somebody that probably has deeper resources that could help them, and understand so far they haven't come forward with any funding for their project. So, but at any rate, congratulations on a good budget again, Brianne. Going into this in the first 20 years was just like, I dreaded the process. And the last couple of years, each year, the process gets smoother and smoother to the point where it's now refined to the point where it doesn't take much digging to understand what's going on with the budget and the CIPs that we need. And Merv, thank you for all your help with that as well. It's just, delightful not to be arguing across the table with Mickey and Buddy like we used to do on these different things. So thank you very much for all your efforts.
Okay, Craig?
Yep. I agree with what Bob's saying on the what is it, the northwest corner. The gentleman who mentioned that. In fact, I would say take it the next step and take all that stuff out. So if that's something that we can incorporate, I don't think you're going to have a lot of fighting from anyone on the city, because I thought we kind of left it with, we weren't sure about pickleball. I think we know where we are with pickleball completely, and those courts are not going to be tennis courts and they're not going to be pickleball. So now they can be removed. So I think it's just kind of a demolition project, and making sure the city's okay with it, and then planting grass. The roads though are kind of nice. So what?
I'm wondering if it, yeah, I mean, I'm just wondering, because we waste so much water. Every time I drive by there, the sprinklers are on. And it's sometimes even raining and the sprinklers are on the corners.
On the corners?
Yeah. I'm just wondering if there's anything else that can be done there that's, you know, not necessarily grass, but a beautification at the same time, where it's not a substantial amount of water that we're spraying on the grass constantly. I don't know. Just it might be something worth exploring.
Yeah, I would consider leaving the parking lot, but the rest
Nobody
of it,
uses the parking lot.
yeah.
Though.
But
'Cause
you're
I
gonna,
don't think
you
they're
might
even
need it
allowed.
during the construction. That's the only
Say
thing.
it could be a staging area.
Yeah, a staging area. It'll even look better, or look worse than it is today. But either way, you're gonna have to deal with it, whether you put water on it or not, we're gonna have to deal with it. And now I'm just saying, we've come to the conclusion that we're not going to use, we're not gonna use it for tennis, we're not gonna use it for pickleball, right? So it's just time.
There are some code requirements for the ground cover, so we wouldn't be able to leave it. We have to do something to cover it. So I mean, we'll talk and see if there's some other ideas that you guys have for it. Okay.
You can do xeriscape.
It could be another, it could be an additional services agreement though, just can't discuss.
Letting you know.
Just letting you know.
Yeah. Small.
If we have to design.
The other thing I wanted to mention is that I'm still an advocate of doing something on your survey there of the southeast corner, that 3 acres, I think that is, that something goes there, whatever that is, whether it's a nonprofit or whatever it could be. I think there's opportunity that we shouldn't just let it go, because that is a prime location for something. If we land bank it, so be it. But I think there's an opportunity there. Lastly, I will mention that I had the good fortune to travel to several different areas, but the one that stood out in my mind was something I never expected it to, which was this WonderWorks up in Orlando. And it is basically a sugar sand science exploratorium on steroids. And I was quite surprised of all the exhibits that they had in there, that some were identical to the sugar sand. Others were much more elaborate. Nothing too difficult though. I mean, from like the soap bubbles to these screens where you push your hands into it. Well, they had them for the whole body. But there's a lot of creative exhibits I thought that were pretty good. And it was almost to the point where, yeah, that you get it. They're trying to sell stuff there. There's another component of it. But the science part of it was tremendous. It was a good hands-on types exhibits. And I think that's another area to benefit. I know Brienne's got enough things on her plate. The whole team's got more than enough things on their plate. But if you could get a third party to provide something like that, what we're doing for pickleball, that would be a real win for the community. So that we don't necessarily run it, but someone else runs it. So just a thought. That's all I have.
Steve?
Just one thing, really a question. I heard from someone with regard to pickleball courts at Patch Reef, and the fact that we're pulling up trees, et cetera, et cetera. We have an environmental impact statement.
Yeah, the trees are being relocated too, and we're dedicating a conservation area. So the trees that can move are going to be moved into that conservation area. So it's not like we're just ripping out trees and tossing them.
Yeah,
there's a whole environmental plan in place.
I thought maybe something was happening I wasn't aware of. Also, again, I'm going to blow my own horn. I had the opportunity to perform at Boca's Got Talent. And my understanding was that a significant sum was raised for the charity involved, Mylea Foundation, which contributes to which helps families with kids in this area who are suffering from pediatric cancer, which strikes close to home because my niece, as a little girl, was treated for cancer and it's come back and now it's in remission again. But it was a very worthwhile cause, very well attended. And thank God I had no competition when it came to the comedy because people thought I was funny.
I was there and he did not pay me to say that. He was the best comic there. So
yeah, 4 drinks, but I didn't pay. And lastly, to the staff that we have, to Brianne, to Joanne, to Melissa, to our tech guy, to Merv, Chuck, you guys do such a phenomenal job. When I look at what you guys accomplished, not what we accomplished, but what you guys accomplished, as opposed to other, for lack of a better phrase, municipal bodies, there's just no comparison. You guys are great. And I know this is going to come back to haunt us when you ask for a 30% raise. But seriously, you guys are fantastic. And you have my eternal gratitude.
Okay. Bob, I agree with what you said on the Cultural Arts Center. I agree with you on that. And of course on the budget. Thank you to everybody for that. And that's it. So
I have one more thing.
Yes.
They were not asking for money. They were just asking for our support and our love.
They got our love and
They got it.
support.
All right.
Move to adjourn.
Second?
Commissioner Ernst?
Yes.
Commissioner Engel?
Yes.
Commissioner Rollins?
Yes, there could be a field house at the southeast corner.
Commissioner Vogelsang?
Yes.
Commissioner Wright?
Yes.
Motion passes.